Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're David and Tracy Freck, lead pastors of Church of the Harvest. We're really grateful you took the time to watch this rebroadcast of this past week's message at Church of the Harvest.
Hey, it doesn't matter what time you're joining us. It could be in the middle of the night, it could be during the day. But we trust that the Word of God will minister to your spirit today, and that there will be something that happens in your spirit that you've been longing for.
Absolutely. We're committed to helping you grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ. That's why we provide this message in a format that you can watch anytime you like. So would you do something? Just don't watch it, but also think about how we can connect with you and make a difference in your life. So take the time to send us an email, look at the description below for next steps. However we can engage you, it would be our privilege and our honor to do so. So come on into the service, experience the Word, and let Jesus change your life.
So we're in this series called Sleeping on the Job, Sleeping on the Job. And last week we talked about Daniel and I don't know if you guys did, talked about Daniel and the lions did. Anyway, I talked about Daniel and the lion did, and resting in the presence of lions. And so today we're going to be talking about resting in a storm, resting in the storm. So here's what this whole subject matter is about. Sleeping on the job is about finding the peace of Jesus in and through every circumstance of life. How many of you know that we can have peace no matter what we're going through? You can have joy no matter what you're going through. And you're going to be able to find rest in every season, in every storm. And you're like, how can that be? I can tell you how it's going to be by the end of the message today. So have you ever been in a storm? Right? How many of you have been in a storm? Like rain, thunder, a snowstorm. You ever been driving? You know, I used to drive a semi, and every time it snowed, I'd call in sick. Until one year, I ran out of vacation by February, and so I had to go drive in it. And maybe you've been through a lightning storm where like it's just lightning up and it feels like daytime around, or a thunderstorm. It's so loud it shakes your house. You ever had one of those things? Boom, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Did my house just snap in half? Or maybe we just been, you've been in a storm where it's just high winds and it's just the trees are like 45 mile an hour sitting, going sideways, and the trailers are on the road are going, woo, all over the place. And how about the flood of '93? Some of you weren't even born then, so you don't know all this. But I was a sophomore in high school, and I remember it rained, man, and it rained. And I remember, I wasn't saved or nothing, and I was thinking, oh no, is this the flood that was talked about in the Bible? And I was like, it's never going to stop. I remember where I was. I was at, Blue Springs South High School, just open for the first year, and I'm like, man, this is kind of scary, man. I think we're going to all die. And if you go down on Southwest Boulevard or go to Margaritas or Ponax, you get in there, and it's like the water was this high. And I'm not kidding. It was like it flooded down in the boulevard, down the bottoms. It flooded everything out. Or maybe you've been in an ice storm, and I remember I was driving a truck one day, and I was noticing that all the cars, as they hit a certain patch, they would start sliding, and I was like, I'm going to wait till they all pass before I get on there. And as I did, man, my trailer goes, woo, boom, hit the side of the bridge. I called in and said, hey, boss, just want to let you know it's icy out here. He's like, well, but just be careful. But here's the biggest storm I've ever been in. I've been in a tornado. I've been in a tornado, and there ain't nothing like it. It's scary. And we just moved up to Plattsburgh, Missouri. Been there about a week, and everybody says it always storms up north. It does. And so we're up there, and we're watching the weather, and we're watching Brian Busby, and he's talking about, hey, if you're in Plattsburgh, you might want to take cover now. And right when he said now, windows breaking out in our house, and I saw the funnel, I saw it come down, and I'm like, woo, running into the basement as quick as I could. And we're, in the movies when you hear like Twister, and you hear the doors banging, we're hearing the wind outside, and it was just scary. It was really scary to go through that type of storm. Well, there's a common feeling that comes with these storms. It's fear. Fear comes with these storms. So I'm going to read a story in the book of Mark about a storm that the disciples went through. Mark chapter 4, verse 35. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took him and with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, this is Jesus, asleep on the cushion. I love it. He was asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, "Who is this then that even the wind and the sea obey him?" You know, it seems like this storm came out of nowhere. But when you are on mission with Jesus, don't be surprised when a fierce storm develops. You see, they were on their way to the other side because Jesus was getting ready to have an appointment with the man who was demon possessed. He was getting ready to go set a man free. So they were on mission to go, and all of a sudden, here comes a storm. I want you to know that in our lives, just like we all raise our hand and experience storms, storms are inevitable. You're going to go through them in your life. You're going to, just like we do physically, we're also going to go through spiritual storms or storms in our life. And here's the thing about an enemy. He wants to create a storm so that he'll stop the purposes and mission of God. Watch this, by distracting you, moving you, overwhelming you, come on, and sinking you. He's going to try to do all of these things in order to stop you from fulfilling your destiny, the calling of God in your life, the mission that God has for you to see people set free. In this storm, it consists of three things. It consisted of fierce winds. There's nothing the enemy would rather do than to knock you off course. He'd like to just sway you away little by little. I remember when we were in Destin, Florida this past year, we got to go for our, I don't even know if it's an anniversary. We'll just call it an anniversary. We might have an anniversary in a month and go do it again. And so we could call any month an anniversary. But I remember we were out in the ocean, and we're kind of just sitting there. All of a sudden, we're drifting. All of a sudden, we're like, where's our stuff at? And that's what the enemy wants to do, right? He wants to knock you off course. And sometimes it's a little wind. Sometimes it's a fierce wind. But eventually we get to a place where we are not focused and missionally minded for the purposes of God. There's also these high winds, these high waves that were coming over the boat. And the enemy wants to overwhelm you. He wants to overwhelm you with fear. He wants to overwhelm you with anxiety. He wants you to believe that you're getting overtaken and overcome. And the third thing is the boat started sinking. It was filling up. Listen, if you're sunk, you can't move. If the boat's too full, you can't go to where you can't fulfill the mission. So here's the thing. How do we know that this is a storm not from God, right? Because I think there's three kinds of storms we face. We face some that are created by the enemy. I think God allows some storms in our life because he wants to do something with us or bring us into a new place. And then there's storms that you and I create. Come on, we got to recognize I created this storm. I created this mess, right? But how do we know that this is a work of the enemy? Why? Because Jesus rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Stop, peace, be still." He's not going to rebuke something that he's doing. He had to rebuke something that the enemy was doing. And here's what happens when all of us, the storm is working against the disciples. It created fear. And here's what the storms do. Great storms cause great panic. Just like that tornado, I'm telling you, man, I was scared. Like, I've been through a lot of storms before. I've been through a lot of rain. I've been through snowstorms, been through ice storms. But this tornado caused me, like, great panic. Like, you know when they say that it gets really silent outside and then everything looks green? Well, it looked that way. And Pastor Bethany, she's at the bottom. So we had our door here, and then we had these stairs that went down right by the door. And she's like, "How's it look?" I go, "Really scary." And Annalise was just a little girl at the time. She was little. Zoe wasn't born yet. And I'm just like, man, I'm freaking out, man. I'm like, I ain't never seen nothing like this before. It's sitting right on top of us. It causes great panic. But here's the thing about storms is that uneasy times, they often cause us to cry out to Jesus. When this panic comes, all of a sudden, we found ourselves in the prayer closet. We were really in the closet praying. That's what made it a prayer closet. I mean, we're praying. I mean, we're like, Jesus! We were calling out to him just a few hours before that. But then the storm comes, all of a sudden, Jesus, help us! The great fierce wind caused a great panic. We called out to Jesus in Mark chapter 4:38. But he was in the stern of the cushion. They woke Jesus up. I love it. And they woke him up. Jesus! Jesus! Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing? Here's what storms do. Storms have a way of throwing our minds into a state of confusion. All of a sudden, they're like, don't you care? Jesus cares. Always cares. He proved it by what he did on the cross for us. He cares, and all of a sudden you're like, don't you care? In other words, we start thinking crazy, we start talking crazy. It throws our mind in a state of confusion. When we were in that closet, man, I was like, I didn't think about nothing else, man. I didn't think about my mortgage. I didn't think about my car payment. I didn't think about any of that. My mind was in, like, if I had any concern before, the only thing I thought about was this tornado that was sitting on the side of my house. See, here's the thing. A lot of times in a storm, the only thing we think about is ourselves and how it's affecting us. Like what's going to happen to us. And so this is what storms do. So in other words, it starts to get our mind off mission, mind off purpose. Come on, mind off the goal. So verse 39, and he woke and he rebuked the winds. I think it's really amazing, by the way, that Jesus slept through the storm. I mean, water was in the boat. He's like, it ain't even phasing him. You're like, what? I don't know if somebody put through a glass of water on me, I'm probably going to wake up, right? You're talking about waves coming into the boat and overwhelming, and he's like, man, I'm peaceful. And he's just sleeping. I think it's pretty amazing, but not only was that amazing, he said he rebuked the wind, said to the sea, be still, peace be still. So what's even more amazing than him sleeping is his authority over the natural elements. Over the wind, over the sea. He has the ability to calm like water that's going crazy. You ever been in a lake and the wind's blowing and it's just choppy and you're like, and Jesus was like, stop. Pretty amazing the authority that Jesus has over these things. Well, as he goes on, and as he goes on, after he stops the wind, tops the waves, he says to the disciples, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? I'll be honest with you. If I was the disciple, I feel like I have a pretty valid complaint. I mean, right? I got a pretty valid one here. There's really, really fear. You're talking hurricane force winds. You're talking it says a great windstorm. I'm kind of afraid. I remember we went to Honduras last time. We took a boat ride. And we were out in the middle of this water, and you can just see it getting dark everywhere. And I'm like, Lord, is this it? I'm like just like praying to myself, peace be still. Am I going to die in the lakes of Honduras? And they had a pretty good complaint. Fierce winds, water coming into the boat, and they're sinking. They're really sinking. It's legitimate, right? What are you afraid of? I'm afraid of drowning. I'm afraid of dying. I looked up 10 things most people are afraid of. The number one is public speaking. Like, right? Hey, you know, one of the greatest things Christians have is prayer. And one of the things we're the most scared to do is pray out loud. Right? Public speaking. Number 2 is heights. Like going really high up, you know. I like number 3. This is really big for me. Going to the dentist. Oh my gosh, that's like one. That might be number 1 for me. Snakes, flying, spiders, enclosed spaces, mice. Man, I hate mice. Mice. Why do we run so far whenever we see something this big? It's like, ah! It's like, dude, you can kill me. Let me tell you a really good story real quick. Some of you, yeah, I'm going to tell you really good about a mouse. Years ago, when I was working at Side driving a truck. I remember I got a voicemail, and Pastor Bethany is on it, and I hear the girls in the background just squealing. Yeah, I was like, and so anyway, I call back. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, she goes, I'll tell you if you promise not to laugh. You know, I'm like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm like, I can't guarantee anything like that. So anyway, she tells a story. She's sweeping by the stove, and she thought it was like a string or something. Well, it ended up being a mouse's tail, right? So anyway, so she probably tells it better than me, but I'm gonna make it really sound big, and I wasn't even there, so she pulled the rack out, the pan rack out. She said, "Girls, go get me the broom." So she got the broom, and she's like she's got him, except for it won't die. So here's what she did. You ready? She said, "Girls, go get the hammer." She killed a mouse with a hammer. Yeah, come on. Nobody's ever done that. I mean, that's legendary right there. Anyway, that's what you do to them. All right. Next one's dogs, and then last is storms, thunder, lightning. Right. So look at these things. If we really look at them, there's a lot of these things that have to do, and you don't realize it, but many of these have to do with death. Right. So why are you afraid of heights? Because if I fall when I'm really high, like you ever gone to the arch in St. Louis? I got no problem going there until I get to the top. And all of a sudden, the arch is doing this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't like this. I could die, right? Going to the dentist. You might die. I'm just kidding. Snakes, you're afraid of getting bit, right? Poison, you get bit by a copperhead, you get bit by a poisonous snake, or like an anaconda wraps himself around you, squeezes you to, I know we don't have any around here, but flying, we fly. Why was there fear of flying? What if the plane goes down, right? It's not necessarily the flying. It feels like you're on a bus half the time. Spiders, they could bite me, and they just look creepy. But if a brown recluse got you, or some of these spiders got you, they can do some major damage. We don't like to be in close spaces. I can't breathe. I need some oxygen. Somebody help me breathe. I got another story. I'll share that with second service because I'm running out of time already. Dogs. Man, nobody wants to get bit by a dog, right? I mean, I'm telling you, man. I will run from your dog. And I got no problem running from your dog. And so sometimes I'll knock on your door and the dog comes. I'm like, I'll just go. You want to go talk to me in the car? And then storms, right? They cause destruction. Tornadoes, hurricanes, just wind bursts. All sorts of things. So here's the thing. Jesus answered them, why are you, he asked them, why are you afraid? Well, because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to die. So the disciples, here's why. The disciples were in a state of panic because they still didn't have any faith. It's important when it comes to fear. You hear faith over fear. When there's no faith, there's going to be fear involved. So Jesus asked the second question. I love this. Have you still no faith? What are you afraid of? Well, I'm afraid of drowning. I'm afraid of sinking. I'm overwhelmed. This is too much for me. So I'm afraid of. And then he goes on, have you still no faith? Here's what Jesus is asking him. Do you still not know who I am? Do you still not know who I am? You know, you've been hanging out with me. You've been seeing the things that I do. You've been seeing how I heal the lame and the paralyzed and the leper. And you see how I can raise the dead. You see who I am. Because if you do not know who Jesus is, you won't know who's in the boat with you. So you got this, this is where it is. Like, have you still no faith? So let me tell you a little about the one who's in the boat. Matthew 4:23, and he went throughout all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing, ready? Every disease and every affliction among the people. So I want to tell you today, this is who I'm talking about today. This is who in your boat. Jesus heals the sick. He heals the sick. He also heals those who are afflicted with various diseases and pain. You got some pain? I want to tell you today, you have one who can help you. You have one who can heal your affliction, who can heal your diseases. Mark chapter 1, verse 40, a leper came to him. A leper is a skin disease. And what the skin disease would do, it was created by a bacteria. And what would happen is you would have these spots and sores all over your body, and even your fingers or toes would become deformed in some way. And nobody could heal this sickness until Jesus came along and he break down everybody's thought of what could really happen. And Mark 1:40 says, and the leper came to him imploring him, and kneeling said to him, if you will, you can make me clean. Moved with pity, stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I will be clean. And immediately the leprosy left him and he was made clean. I want to tell you today is that God can heal whatever you're going through. God can heal every single disease. Listen, cancer doesn't have to have a grip on you. I'm telling you, what the enemy says can't be healed, God can change that around. I'm believing for it for you today. I'm believing it for your family today. He also heals the oppressed. But I don't know if you feel like maybe you're oppressed or going through difficult times. Maybe you're in a place of depression. I want to tell you that the one in the boat with you can heal your oppression. And they went into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching. And they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one who had authority, not as the scribes. And immediately there was in the synagogue a man with an unclean spirit. He cried out, what have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. But Jesus rebuked him. Be silent and come out. And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying out with a loud voice, came out of him. And they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? A new teaching with authority. He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. Listen, there's nothing that has a grip on you that Jesus can't release, that Jesus can't break. There's nothing, come on, there's no addiction, there's no pain, there's nothing that Jesus can't heal. Jesus, watch this, also can heal the paralytics. Amazing. And when he came to Capernaum after some days, I'm just reading out of Mark right now. There's a whole lot more of what Jesus did in the Bible. After some days, it was reported that he was at home, and many were gathered, so that there was no more room, not even at the door. And he was preaching the word to them, and they came, bringing to him a paralytic carried by 4 men. And when they could not get near him because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him. And when they had made an opening, they let the bed down which the paralytic lay. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, son, your sins are forgiven. So now some of their scribes were sitting there questioning in their hearts, why does this man speak like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Come on. And immediately Jesus, perceiving in his spirit that they questioned within themselves, and said, why do you question these things in your heart? Which is easier to say to the paralytic? Come on, this is Jesus saying, which is easier? Not for you, not for me, but which is easier for him? Your sins are forgiven, which he did for us on the cross, or rise up and take your bed and walk, but that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. He said to the paralytic, I say to you, pick up your bed and go home. And he rose and immediately picked up his bed, went out before them, so that all were amazed and glorified God, saying, we've never seen anything like this before. Let me tell you, this isn't who is in the boat with you. He can heal the paralytic. He can heal the disease. He can heal the oppressed. He can heal the depressed. He can do all of this. Do you not, this is what he's saying, do you not know who is in the boat with you? It's important that you and I would know who's in the boat with you. He's the one who caused Abraham to have a baby being 100 years old, Sarah at the age of 90. He's the one who caused Joseph to go from the dungeon to the head of Egypt overnight. He's the one who caused David, come on, to defeat a giant with just a sling and a stone. This is who is in the boat. He's the one who causes walls to fall down of whole cities. He's the one who parts the sea. He's the one who frees an entire nation with the nation not having to do a thing. This is who is in the boat. He heals the lame. He gives the mute the ability to hear, the blind the ability to see. This is who is in the boat with us. So here's what happens. The one who could help was with them all along. He was with them all along. He was silent. You ever feel like God's silent sometimes? But it don't mean he still can't help. See, what happens is we toil. Come on, we fight these winds by, these are skilled fishermen. They're trying to fight this battle. They're trying to fight these winds. They're trying to fight these overwhelming waves. They're trying to get the water out, get the water out. And they're doing it all in their strength. Come on. And the whole time they have somebody in the boat with them who can help them the entire time. They're working hard. They're stressing out. They're panicking when all they had to do was call upon Jesus. All they had to do. So we go through these things in our life that we're stressing ourselves out and wearing ourselves out when we have the one who is ready to help us the entire time. He's the one who can give us rest. So here's what happens next. He said to them, why are you afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? Why can we rest? Why can we rest? Why can you and I rest in the middle of a storm? Because the one who is in the boat with us is able to stop the storm. And here's the thing about it. Here's what I realized a lot. So many of us, we want God to stop a storm when he wants us to go through it with him. He was just fine, just like we're going to make it to the other side. You know, when Jesus is with you, you're going to make it to the other side. So sometimes we start panicking. How are we going to do this? Or what's going to happen here? How's it going to happen here? You're stressed out and you're worked up and whenever pressure comes and the winds fall and the rain falls and the floods come up, all of a sudden you start just freaking out. And this is what happens to us in many different ways is that you and I, we forget the one that's in the boat with you. One of my favorite scriptures is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. Keep yourself from the love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you. So we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? He's my helper in the boat. He's my helper in the storm. What do I have to fear when the one who created the sun, the stars, the moon, the heavens, the earth, the way the world runs, what do I have to fear? And what is it that man can do to me? Man can't do nothing to me, not when I have God on my side. So how do we rest? Ready? How do we rest? Number one, we got to know who's in the boat. Number two is this. And this is my last point, believe it or not. Run. I know what I did whenever we had that storm, that tornado, when I saw it, you know what I did? I ran to shelter. Ran to shelter. Like I'm like, okay, let's get to the safest place that we possibly can, which was in the middle of our house, in a closet, surrounded by the most concrete we had in the house, so that we could be safe. I ran to shelter, because this is what happens. Watch this. As you and I, we get into a place of rain, we get to a place of high winds, we get to a place, of hurricane force winds coming, and you know what? When I'm in a safe place, when I'm sitting in my house, and I'm just watching those winds blow, I'm pretty rested. I'm pretty rested. I'm not stressing out, man. I'm like, dude, I'm in a safe place. And when I'm in a safe place, what happens when I run to the shelter, which is into the presence of God, which is with Jesus, all of a sudden, come on now, I'm at rest as I'm facing the storm. So worship team, you can come up right now. I want you to know that you can rest in every storm, knowing that God has, knowing that God can, and that God will save you from the storm. I just want you to know that God can, God has, and God will save you from every storm. This weekend, Zoe and I went to Oklahoma City to watch a Oklahoma Thunder basketball game. It was a ton of fun. And we went to our seats, and we're sitting toward the top of the arena. And you know what? It's always nice to sit close, because you get to see things, in a close level. But when you're sitting at a different height, you're able to see things in a different light. When you're at a different height, you're able to see things in a different light. So a lot of us, here's the thing, we're in the middle of the storm. When we're in the middle of the game, watch, Andy, come here. Andy knows some basketball. When I'm in the middle of the game, all I can think about is this, All I can think, I can't see anything around me. This is all I'm thinking about. I can't see. I can't even hardly see the guy here or the guy here or here, because this is what happens in our life when we're going through storms. What happens? Thanks, Andy. But here's what happens. God's got a different view, and God's got a different perspective, and God can see the beginning to the end. And He's the one who says, listen, I got somebody coming. Watch this. Andy, come here. Colby, come here. Colby, come here. Colby, I got somebody coming. Here's what's happening. He's coming around. I need you to set a pick on this guy. Here's what happens. Right there. He's coming around. Boom. He stops him. Come on now. He's going to save you. He's going to take care of it. He's going to help you in the storm. He's going to bring the help that you need. You might not see what He's doing. You might not see what's going on, but He can see the big picture. Don't get stuck in what you see. Don't get stuck looking at those waves. Don't get stuck looking at those winds. Don't get stuck looking at that boat sinking right now. Look to the one who can help you. Look to the one who can save you. Would you stand up with me today? How many of us so I can relate to this today? I'm going through some overwhelming stuff right now. Listen, Jesus ain't beating us up for a lack of faith. He's saying, hey, listen, I want you to know me. I want you to know what I can do. I want you to know that you're not in a desperate situation. I want you to know that I got a way out. I'm right here. Just call on me. I'm right here. Quit looking at those things. Call on me. So let's do this. Hey, if that's you today, you say, you know what, I'm going to call on the Lord today. I need some help. I'm going to run to shelter, to the altar shelter today. Come on, the altar shelter. It's running to God today. It's running to Jesus today. It's like, we know Jesus ain't sleeping. Come on, he's praying for us night and day. His atoning blood saves us. We know that. But right now, that's you, you're saying, man, I'm going to call upon the Lord today. Come on, I want to come out of rest and into his peace. God, I need you to help me in this storm. I need peace. I need things to be still. If that's you, listen, this altar is going to be open for you today. I want you to just come up, worship the Lord together, and let's worship him together.